Hello and greetings from Moscow. My name is Sergei Medvedev. I'm professor at the Free University of Moscow, and I'm delighted to be speaking to this forum on the occasion of 30 years of 1991. And indeed, there are things to celebrate and things to deplore looking back at these 30 years. I'm really thinking of how much has changed. Indeed, it's a whole new era. But on the other hand, looking at my country, I understand that many things have also changed very little. First of all, I want to say about Lithuania, and to say it from my own memories as a participant of the Russian democratic movement in the Gorbachev era. And we really appreciate it very much for what Lithuania has done for the end of the Soviet Union. I think it was the top republic that buried the Soviet project. We all remember the names of the Sayudis leaders. We all remember how the Lithuanian delegation walked out of the Congress of People's Deputies. We remember the Baltic Ring, a human chain across the Baltic states, the three Baltic republics. And of course, the bloodshed at the Vilnius TV tower in January 1991. And I remember that the next day it brought out hundreds of thousands of people in the streets of Moscow, many of them carrying Lithuanian flags. Looking back at this from 2021, this seems impossible, unimaginable. I'm just telling it to the students these days, to my students, can you imagine these people don't believe this? But indeed, they're like hundreds of thousands of people standing out for the independence of Lithuania in January 1991. And I was one of those among those people. And indeed, looking back at these 30 years, Lithuanian independence brought us closer to Russian independence. We were together in fighting the rotten and clumsy Soviet Union. Over these 30 years, Lithuania stayed on course. It lived its sovereignty dream. It became member of the EU and NATO. While Russia, on the other hand, having briefly experimented with democracy and westernization, has returned to its old imperial self. You know, there's a Russian saying that we are a country where everything changes in 10 years and nothing changes in 100 years. And I think we have learned it once again in the 21st century, as now we are back in the USSR, here in Moscow. The main thing which happened here, I think it's the reassessment of the breakup of the Soviet Union. Back in 1991, this seemed like a victory, as we said back then, joining the community of the civilized nation, moving towards the future. But now, in the 21st century, with the coming of Vladimir Putin, the Soviet Union is seen, in his own words, the biggest geopolitical catastrophe of the 20th century. This is a strange pronouncement. In the 20th century, we had World War I, World War II, we had the Holocaust, we had great human tragedies, of which the breakup of the Soviet Union wasn't, of course, the biggest in terms of human loss. But in Russia these days, this is seen as a geopolitical catastrophe, as a tragedy, and the official propaganda has instilled a sense of loss and humiliation of Russia. Russia now feels as a loser nation. There is a very strong post-imperial ressentiment in Russia, which resembles the Weimar syndrome in Germany in the 1920s and the 1930s. Driven by this ressentiment, Russia is becoming increasingly aggressive. And after the initial interventions in Abkhazia and Transnistria, it embarked on a war in Georgia in 2008. And then finally, 2014, war in Ukraine, annexation of Crimea, and the semi-occupation of Donetsk and Lugansk regions. So as a result, we have a very strange version of the Russian Empire these days. Russia is surrounded by a belt of toxic territories, stretching from Abkhazia and South Ossetia to Donetsk and Luhansk, and further on to Crimea, Transnistria, and Belarus, where Russia supports the terrorist regime of Alexander Lukashenko. And like in 1991, Moscow these days is an ailing empire, the sick man of Europe, as they used to say about Turkey in the beginning of the 20th century. Having lost all its allies, Our only guest at the Victory Day parade on the 9th of May 2021 was President of Tajikistan, Imamali Rahmon, the last remaining Russian ally. So looking back at these years, I think we here in Russia have to relive the spirit of 1991, when we all felt the victors over the Soviet Union. And I truly believe that one day Russia will debunk the toxic, archaic, and dangerous myth of the Russian Empire and will become a normal nation state in a European family where she rightfully belongs. Thank you for your attention.